off your elections. But first, WSB's Pete Combs joins us with highlights from his investigation into cheating. What's behind this national epidemic of scandal?
If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right.
What does it say about us that many of the people we admire most are adulterers, unfaithful? They're cheaters.
You know, I lied to everyone about everything.
I was unfaithful. I had affairs. I cheated. What I did is not acceptable.
I have had sex with women who work for me on this show.
For noted Atlanta divorce attorney John Mayoue, it means the times, they are definitely a-changin'.
98% of people that got married prior to 1960 stayed married for life. If you're entering into a marriage in 2010, you should assume the worst. You should expect there will be cheating. You should do all you can to prevent it, but frankly, it's not within your control. With the advent of no-fault divorce, with the coming of the me generation, where I'm looking at my needs and my wants only, coupled with the information age, I think the institution of marriage in this country has been greatly, greatly weakened.
The bottom line, says Mayoue, is that if marriage isn't what it used to be, well, then neither is adultery.
Because of the internet, because of people's attitudes about marriage not being as strong as it once was, that adultery is just not shocking to people. It's just not a sort of a game changer.
But it certainly is a game changer for this woman. We'll call her Anne, although that's not her real name.
It's annihilating. Everything about you just falls apart, and your self-confidence is just shot.
Anne met her celebrity husband before he hit the big time.
We got married right at the cusp of his fame, his whatever, celebrity.
But as his popularity grew, her husband spent more and more time on the road, performing in nightclubs and on television, and stayed home and handled the business of stardom, including her husband's website. And that, she says, is where she first got an inkling that he was being unfaithful.
The first email I got was about somebody seeing him in an elevator somewhere. And it went on to say it looked like he didn't want to be interrupted. He was with somebody. And I was like, really?
As she learned more, Anne found that the man she knew at home was nothing like the man she heard about on the road.
The behavior really wasn't evident at home. Although I did notice, in retrospect, I looked back and I saw there was gifts that I'd gotten on occasion. I was like, why did I get that?
40% of all couples coming for marital therapy come because of infidelity.
Dr. Gene Abel is a psychiatrist at the Atlanta Institute for Behavioral Medicine.
The partner feels betrayed because the individual gets involved with somebody else, and then there's a whole series of lies that the individual involved in the affairs has to generate.
Once the trust is broken, that, to me, is what keeps your marriage together. You know, it's that special trust that you have between your spouse and yourself.
Cheating, I know you've been cheating. Oh, yes, you have. Cheating, down on me, girl.
I separate my life into two compartments. It's very compartmentalized.
Cheating, round on my beat. Cheating.
We'll call this man Larry, who's been having an affair with a coworker for 4 years now. He's not in love, this is not his first affair, and he has no regrets.
Yeah, just getting something I'm not getting at home. You know, different way of being treated, being put on a pedestal, as it were, where the wife doesn't, you know, care whether I'm home or not, or come and go. And it's nice to have somebody who still cares enough about you to make sure you're happy, you know.
Dr. Abel says cheaters like Larry give no real thought to the carnage they make of other people's lives.
The person who, women are interchangeable, and therefore it doesn't make any difference who I'm being sexual with. that individual is very tough to treat.
But one thing cheaters do better than anything else is justify their actions, and even Larry admits it.
If I was sharing my heart with somebody else, really cared about this other person, I would feel worse about it. But it's more of a friendship than an intense emotional attachment to this person.
Friendship with privileges.
Yeah, friend with benefits.
Could Larry be a sexual addict?
From my personal standpoint, I think there's something to it. I really do. I sometimes I think giving everything a disease name is a cop-out, even in this, but I think there's some people that are wired more for sex than others.
Attorney John Mayoue doesn't buy it.
And I remain skeptical of that because I find that people use that as an excuse or as a justification.
Mayoue says most cheaters are only sex addicts after they're caught.
Oftentimes people go to sex rehab so they can go tell the judge, look, I've cleaned myself up. Or they think they go to sex rehab because it's like taking a pill and it'll make everything better.
I've always been sort of confused by why people thought that you're getting out of something by admitting that you have a problem and that it's controlling you and you're not controlling it, and it's costing you everything.
Dr. Linda Hudson is an Atlanta psychologist who says the price of admitting one is a sex addict is so high she can't imagine anyone using it as a dodge. She says sex addiction is a real issue and has real symptoms.
People are using more time than they have, or they're spending more money, or they're not conscious of how much the behavior is impacting their relationships. All of that goes into diagnosing sex addicts.
In fact, Dr. Hudson says there's a physiology to sex addiction.
The brain scans that have been done recently do indicate that there are areas of the brain that will light up in sex addicts that are the same area of the brain that chemical dependency issues show up.
Your cheating heart will make you weep. You'll cry and cry and try to sleep.
Whether a conniving philanderer or a helpless sex addict, cheaters have this in common. They almost all think they're bulletproof, beyond detection. But Niall Cronley begs to differ.
If a person wants to know badly enough if their spouse is cheating, they will find out. There's no doubt.
Cronley runs Eagle Investigative Services, one of the most sought-after detective agencies in all of Atlanta. His message to adulterers is simple and stark.
You're going to get caught. It's just a matter of time.
Attorney John Mayoue says agencies like Eagle aren't like their predecessors of 50 or 60 years ago.
We hire people that are capable of looking at a computer.
A computer? Why?
Most courts are going to allow me to examine your computer. They're going to allow me to get to your cell phone records. I'm going to find your charge card records, and those things are going to catch most people.
If you use technology to the extent that you're using a computer to communicate with your lover or whoever you're having this affair with, that's evidence. All you're doing every time you communicate is creating more evidence against you.
Think about that for a moment. Computers, cell phones, credit cards. What part of that don't you use every day?
These emails tend to be so graphic and so clear, they leave no doubt as to what's going on in the relationship.
Cronley says, don't think you can simply erase that email away.
Anything that can store data and can have data deleted from it can generally have that data recovered.
But even with guys like Niall Cronley watching and John Mayoue ready to take on philanderers in court, even when the dust settles and the divorce is final, Anne says she's left empty, hurt, and confused.
I'll never, I think, have any closure to it all the way. It's like somebody dying, actually. It's really like death. The real question is, what's wrong with me?
And yet cheaters like Larry will continue to cheat, with virtually no regard for those they hurt most.
I don't know if I could ever be totally faithful. Never have been.
In the end, Attorney John Mayoue says it's marriage that's changed, and perhaps not for the better.
Marriage, at one point, was a sacrament, and today it's simply a contract, and a contract that can be fairly easily broken in all 50 states.
For Atlanta's Morning News Sunday edition, I'm Pete Combs.